If you clicked on this video, you are most likely a new player to Warframe. If so, hi. Hey, come on in and sit on down. Warframe can be a beautiful gem for you to play with all of its quirks and weirdness, but strap in for a crazy ride because you'll be doing pretty much anything imaginable in this game. If you are not a new player and you have already been playing for a little bit, stick around because who knows, maybe some of the tips shared today are new to you too. And if you are a vet, maybe you can help me out by helping some of the new players down in the comments if I missed anything. Anyways, it's time to get into it. The first tip that I want to massively stress is to try and not get overwhelmed. Warframe is now almost a 12-year-old game and has been getting updates ever since, expanding the game and its content massively. Instead, try to take it step by step and set small achievable goals for yourself that seem the most fun to you to complete. Then for number 2, use your starting platinum wisely. When you start Warframe with a new account, you will get 50 platinum, which is great, but you should make sure not to waste it. The only thing you'd want to use this platinum on is extra Warframe, weapon and companion slots, which you can buy from the market in-game that you can find in your ship right here. You can then navigate towards the slots and find the ones I just mentioned. The best use of your 50 starting platinum is to buy 2 times 2 weapon slots and 1 Warframe slot for a total of 44 platinum, which also nicely flows into the next tip, tip number 3, which is to never sell off your weapons, companions or frames, especially if they are not level 30 yet. In Warframe, you level your mastery rank by leveling up weapons, warframes and companions. Each level a weapon, warframe or companion gains, the first time you level it to level 30, will reward you with XP towards your mastery, which will help you unlock new weapons and further content. Another reason to hold on to weapons is that the endgame systems require you to pretty much have all weapons to get maximum rewards. So never get rid of your weapons if they are not level 30 yet. You can see which weapons you have completed by going to your profile and looking for this little icon right here. As leveling weapons is one of the main progressions in Warframe, it's also important to know where to get new weapons, which brings me to tip number 4. You can get a lot of Warframes and weapons for free via the market that's in game. The only thing that you will need for this is credits and the materials to craft said items. Besides this, I would recommend that you go into recruitment chat and look for a clan, as the clan dojo and its labs will give you access to loads of other weapons and frames as well. Most new frames that you'll get are unlocked by defeating bosses that have this map marker. You will need a total of 3 component blueprints, that being the neuroptics, the systems and the chassis, after which you can buy most of the starter frame blueprints from the market that I mentioned earlier. For tip number 5, I would recommend you guys to subscribe to my channel, as I will keep you in the loop with endgame builds, advanced tactics and full breakdowns of mechanics. So do your future self a favor for when you finally reach that end game and subscribe. But now for real, tip number 5 is to go through the entire star chart and complete any quest that you come across. This will reward you with frames, mods and will help you progress into the game. The star chart itself will help you with this as well, as newly unlocked junctions will show you what you have to complete for further progression. Progression through the game is a lot quicker if you become more powerful, segueing me nicely into tip number 6, which is please, for the love of God, level your mods. Mods will be unleveled when you get them, meaning that the buffs they provide are very low. To increase these buffs, you need to get Endo, which is mostly passively gained by playing missions and killing enemies. Alternatively, you can also dissolve duplicate mods you might already have. But, as with the weapons, never dissolve mods you only have 1 copy of. Later down the line you can look up endo guides on YouTube, but beware, most of these won't make any sense to you in the beginning and will need high investment to work, so it's better to just focus on getting it whenever you can see it in the reward pool from, for instance, bounties in the open worlds and alike. Good places for endo in the early game are Cetus on Earth and the Necrolisc on Deimos, where either Konzu or the Mother will have bounties that reward endo. This then also brings me to tip number 7. Make sure to level your open world syndicates every day by playing a couple of these bounty missions. Open worlds in Warframe are the plains of Eidolon on Earth, Orb Vallis on Venus, and Cambion Drift on Deimos. Leveling these syndicates will help you a lot down the line, as it will unlock game systems that you will need later on, and having them done by that point will save you a mindless and quite annoying grind if it's the only thing you have left to do. Now, the more you progress through the game, the higher the enemy levels will also get, which is why it's important that you need to understand how you can make your weapons deal some decent damage. Bringing me to tip number 8. Weapons in Warframe can be great, but a lot of them are also complete trash. However, there's ways to make almost all weapons in the game decent if you understand how to make them deal damage. I'll try to explain this as quick as I can, but do note that this goes way deeper than what I'll try to convey right now. So here we go. In Warframe you can look at damage as water flowing out of a faucet, where your goal is to capture as much water as possible. Now for the sake of this example, let's say you use buckets to collect this water. These buckets more or less represent the mod slots you have in your weapon. To get as much water as possible, you want to get as many buckets, because only one bucket will at some point overflow. In Warframe, I can quickly summarize damage into a couple different buckets. You have the crit damage bucket, the fire rate bucket, the raw damage bucket, and the multi-shot bucket. In the early game, you should focus mostly on the buckets that I've just mentioned. And later on, you can focus more on status-based builds as you get more understanding of the game. For any early game weapon to be decent, you should also pay attention to what faction you are facing and the vulnerabilities that they might have, which is communicated in the star chart before you start any of the missions. When you are modding in the beginning of the game, any weapon will pretty much look like this and use these mods with crit chance, crit damage, fire rate, multi-shot, and raw damage. Then, depending on the faction you are facing, you put in the correct elemental type, which you can get by combining mods in your weapon. In Warframe, toxin, electricity, heat, and cold are the base elements, and these can be combined to form corrosive, magnetic, blast, viral, gas, and radiation. There's a super handy image that I found on the wiki, which you can use to see how you can combine these elements to form all of them. And this also brings me to tip number 9, which is to make sure you check out the Warframe wiki, as it's the best source of information on this game. It will have a lot of articles teaching you exactly what you should know, and you can read it and try to understand it at your own pace, which is great. Definitely do not underestimate the usefulness of this site. Then, for the final tip, number 10, learn how you can move through missions efficiently. This mostly comes down to remembering what the levels in the game look like and how they are stitched together. However, using optimized movement will help with this as well. In general, the fastest way to move through missions is by making sure you are sprinting by holding down Shift on PC or pressing the left joystick on console. The fastest movement in general is gained by chaining a slide, a bullet jump, a double jump, and a dodge roll all together, after which you can even aim glide for further precision of your movement. I will repeat this order of movement one more time. First, you perform a slide, then you bullet jump by pressing the slide and jump button at the same time, then you double jump just by pressing the X button on controller or the spacebar on PC, and then finally you dodge roll, after which you can aim glide. Now I want to close off with some miscellaneous tips from my viewers who I asked what their biggest mistakes were when they started out Warframe in this YouTube post. First, we have 84M30 saying not using new weapons as I progressed through the normal star chart, which wasted a lot of potential MR leveling when it was easy. This is a very good point that he brings up. Whenever you unlock new weapons in Warframe, it's easier to level these up in the early game because some of them will be really bad, as I said, and you can easily level these up when you are still doing all of the low level missions. So whenever you get new weapons in Warframe, make sure to immediately equip them and try to level them to level 30. Then we have Rahuloja saying, I rushed building my Rhino for 50 platinum. Someone told me Rhino is the OPest frame, so I had to get it in order to become OP too. I regretted that decision later on when I found out that the mods are the things that makes the frames most OP. This is also a very good point. You can skip building times on a lot of stuff in this game. However, it's not worth it, especially not in the early game, to spend your platinum like this. Then we have NK Archaic saying, I didn't know that you can move polarities around for a build, so I used to waste formas on a build just to move polarities around. This is also a very good point, which some people might not know. If you have already formatted a weapon once, which means you put this thing called a forma on the weapon, then your weapon will reset to level 0, you can level it up again, and then you have usually more mod capacity because you can put a little notch in one of the mod slots, meaning that some of the mods will be cheaper. Now, if you have formatted a weapon once, you can actually move these slots around, which can help you with combining the elemental damages, which I've explained earlier. Then we have Senpuffle saying, not understanding how elements work and how important they are. So this brings me back to the point number 8, I believe, that I was explaining for modding damage on your weapon. It's very important to look out for which vulnerabilities enemies have whenever you start a mission, as this will immediately shoot up your damage by 50%. So make sure to check those. Then we have Usayan saying, the 2 mistakes I regret most is starting over a bunch of times. Fair enough. But then he also mentions that he bought a mediocre Riven for 1k platinum. And this is something that I want to stress as well. If you are a new player, definitely do not waste time on Riven mods. They are not needed on pretty much 99% of the builds. Only if you go into ultimate min-maxing, you will need ribbons, and especially as an early game player, you can make a lot of mistakes and buy ribbons that are not good at all. So try to wait with this until you are far in the game and you have a thorough understanding of how all of the systems work, and then you can have a look at getting ribbon mods. And with that, that's pretty much it. So make sure to check the comments down below as well for any of the Warframe vets that were still watching and commented some more tips that I may have forgot. And of course, I hope that you all have a wonderful time playing Warframe, and I hope to see you again in the next video. Bye. As always, thanks to all channel members for supporting the channel. If you are looking to become a member, please find the join button below the video.